Welcome back to another Quarter Notes. This is a really fun series of mine where I want to talk about certain albums because I have a little bit to say, but I don't quite have enough to say to warrant a full-length album review. This also allows me to kind of stretch my legs a little bit into albums that I normally wouldn't talk about because of that. So, yeah, that's about it. Let's just dive in. I'll keep the album picture here in case you want to fast forward to the one you want to hear, but really, you should listen to all of these. So let's go. Immutable by Meshuggah. So big legacy band of Meshuggah has put out a new album of Immutable. Their last handful of albums have been less than stellar. The Violent Sleep of Reason was, I don't know, it left me wanting more. And I mean, I love these guys, especially with Obzen from 2008. Contradiction Collapse was just brilliant from 2000 and whenever that was. But I don't know, I loved a lot of their earlier stuff. Everything from their beginnings of the mid 90s all the way into the mid 2000s. I just feel like ever since they came back at 2012, it's been, I don't know, a little bit lackluster. And Immutable, unfortunately, follows the same. Now, there are still some really, really interesting moments on this album. I really like the Abysmal Eye, I believe it is. And the massive They Move Below was fantastic. But honestly, I think Kaleidoscope is probably my favorite track off of this album. I think the album's biggest weakness is its length. It's an hour and 6 minutes, and there's very little variations of what we found on it. And with this style of music, there's not a whole lot of dynamics in terms of the sound. They're able to capture that raw energy very, very well. That very, hard-hitting, hard guttural, very, rhythmic, everything is on time, exactly where it needs to be. After about 40 minutes of it, my brain just kind of shuts itself off. So yeah, unfortunately, the album's biggest weakness is its length. And I think if they had just a little bit more variations in terms of the expression, we could have had something really, really exciting found on this album. Unfortunately, it left me about the same as the Violent Sleep of Reason, except I do think that this album does hold a few moments that I like a little bit more, just because of maybe the variations on it. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for this one. This one is probably a skip for me, but if you want to give it a stream, I'm not going to fault you for it. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Envy of None, their first, their debut self-titled album. This one caught my attention because this is Alex Lyston's, and I know I butchered his last name, don't at me, his side project, and unless somebody tells you that this is Alex's side project, you wouldn't know, it's such an interesting dynamic on an album like this. I feel like this is the music that would have been found from the late 90s, early 2000s Porcupine Tree, with albums like In Absentia, with Deadwing, but with the singing styles of more contemporary pop artists like Lana Del Rey or Billie Eilish, the more dreamscape pop in that sense, and the blending of these two styles really, really work well. And the thing that I love is that they could have billed this as Alex's side project, his solo work, but instead he is just the dash of spice that's found on this. Really, it's the main vocals, it's the rhythms, it's the overall flavors of this that really bring to light something very unique and something very special. And I found myself really loving this album. I've been loving this album for something a little bit more mellow, a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more dreamy in that case, something that's much more of a dreamscape album. And I've been loving this. I love the musical stylings. I love the vocal works on this. It provides such a very unique listening styles. I've been loving this. I think you guys should check it out. this one gets, I would say pick this one up in physical format if you can find it. Like it's 41 minutes, so it's enough to have on one record. So hell, if I saw it in a record store, I would 100% pick it up. I think it's a great time, and I'm really excited to see where the band goes from here. I hope it's not just a one and done record. I really do hope that we see more from Envy of None. So yeah, that's what I've got for this one. Let's move on to the next one.
I don't want you to be afraid. Let me see you cry.
Bronco by Orville Peck. Man, the sophomore record from Orville Peck. The first album of Pony, I loved. A friend of mine had me listen to it, and I was just blown away. I'm not a big fan of country, but I feel like Orville is able to dip his toe more into the Americana side of things rather than play strictly into the country and Western. Like, this is definitely threading the line between like Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash. It's got this very homegrown Americana feel to it without being reliant on a lot of the different tropes that country and Western has been plagued with in recent years. It doesn't take the whole like, I don't know, twang part of it, and it really does modernize a lot of those traditional tropes within country, but does it in a very new and very fresh way. The lyrical content on this is just heart-wrenching and beautiful, and that was something that was found on Pony, but I think is more realized here. I love Orville's writing style, his way of moving the emotions forward within the tracks, but what I really like is his progression in his singing styles. So many of these tracks see him reaching new heights, especially within his falsetto modes, that really, it just bleeds just brilliance, that I find myself applauding his journey as a musician and as an artist. I find myself connecting with this. I'm loving a lot of the subject matter that's on here. I mean, anytime I see a new queer artist on here that just flies the flag so proudly without needing to use ambiguity, without needing to mix words. He comes right out and says it, and I applaud him for that, especially within a country and Western setting. Yeah, this is one that I absolutely love with my whole heart. I've been listening to this practically nonstop since it came out. And yeah, I am so glad to see that the sophomore slump wasn't applied to Orville Peck. And if anything, he has grown exponentially as an artist, and I cannot wait to hear what he has in store for the next one. So this one absolutely gets the note seal of approval. I know this isn't normally what my audience comes for musical recommendations, but you're going to get this one from me anyway. I think it's a great time. So go and check it out if you haven't already. Isle of Wisdom by Hllas, and I think that's how you pronounce it. Hllas. Anyway, Hllas is a brilliant Swedish progressive metal, progressive rock. What I particularly like is that they were able to blend a lot of the styles and expressions from the 70s with more of a modern prog, modern metal prog outlook. For me, they really hit the ground running with Excerpts from a Future Past in 2017, followed it up with Conundrum in 2020, and I love that record. And now we have their third record of Isle of Wisdom, and each album gets better and better and better. They grow and they mature. They are refining their sounds. They're starting to ease off on their influences, and they're not leaning on them quite as hard, which I applaud them for. And they're really finding their own style. It's very trippy. It's very acid rock in that sense. And I'm getting flashbacks in the best possible way to a lot of the prog that was being tried out in the early 70s without being a carbon copy. I could see people put the moniker of a retro prog on this band, but honestly, this one is much more of a modern prog. They're just happening to use techniques and sounds from the 70s in that case. I'm loving the playouts and the building of tracks. We don't have a whole lot of very long tracks. In fact, the final track of The Wind Carries the Word is the longest track off of this album at 7 minutes and 18 seconds, but all the other tracks are between 6 and 4 minutes in length. So they're able to really concentrate on the music and allow them to kind of summarize the music, where other bands would feel like they need to really explore the space. I feel like they have excavated the nuggets of gold on this album and allowed to kind of like really drill deep in this. I still feel as though they are leaning a little bit too much on their influences. I feel as though they still need to kind of branch out and really find their own sound, but I still feel as though they have grown so much within their last 2 albums, and this one is by far their strongest. So if you're a fan of Hllas, if you're a fan of more of like a harder tinge of retro prog, like bands like, say, Deep Purple or Uriah Heep, and you like that kind of expression, then give these guys a try. And I feel like they're doing something that a lot of retro prog bands aren't necessarily doing, so that again gives it a little bit more of a leg up in the competition. So yeah, this is one that I would easily pick up in physical format, especially if I found it. I mean, it's got the perfect runtime at about 45 minutes worth of music. It gives me just enough to make me want to return it for more, but it doesn't give me so much that I feel bloated. I feel like, oh, I've spent way too much time with it. It's just the right amount. So yeah, highly recommended. Gets the note seal of approval. Can't wait to hear more from Hllas. And yeah, they're proving to be an outstanding progressive rock outfit. And there we go. There's all 4 albums for this series of Quarter Notes. What did you guys think of these albums? Which ones were your favorite? Which ones do you want to check out? Please let me know of all those by commenting down below. And that's all I got for you today. That's all I got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.